Let me start off with the fact that my personal rowing coach was an angel. The men's coach, and the coach I had for club rowing in the fall, however, is my worst nightmare. Our coaches used to videotape our practices so we could watch and see what we needed to fix with technique and stuff. It was normal and definitely helped us as we were known for being state champions. Anyways, the summer after my freshman year of college, a coach, who was my age, went to get the camera from the office, and when she turned it on, saw footage of girls getting changed in our locker room. She took the camera, showed another, older, coach, who then took the camera to the police after practice. They questioned all 5 coaches, but in the end it was clear who it was that had done this horrific thing. When he got arrested and investigated, it was found that he had categorized filed folders on his computers of us, all 4 years I was on the team. We didn't find out much until the investigation continued, but once I was back for my second year at college, I got a call from my best friend that Homeland Security had visited her parents' house to confirm she was in the tapes. I hadn't heard anything, so I was hoping that I was in the clear. I called my mom and told her what my best friend had said and then waited. At that moment, time stood still. You told me that you had a few big exams, so I wanted you to focus on school and not be worried. I've known for 2 weeks, because Homeland Security visited us and your dad and I had to leaf through still photos and pick you out in them. That still haunts me to think about. Mostly because in that moment I was more angry with my mother than with anyone. Angry that she had withheld that information and kept me in the dark. As we got updates on the trial, I fell into a pretty deep depression. I felt guilty that my family had to deal with this for me as I was out of state for college. I felt guilty that I couldn't be there to stand with my friends who were like sisters to me as they all went through this tough time. It still brings tears to my eyes, and I sat talking on the phone with my father the day of the sentencing. Tears coming from both of us as he described sitting in the courtroom with fellow parents and teammates as they heard the judge give a 22-year sentence for the 86 videos he recorded in those 4 years, his recount of friends of mine who read their victim impact statements. I wrote one, placed it in an envelope to send to my caseworker for my friend to read for me, but I just couldn't get myself to send it. Honestly, the hardest part of this was when I was home the summer we found out. Parents on my brother's baseball team talked about it, and once they found out I was on the team, I was bombarded with questions. While I felt guilt for my parents having to deal with what I thought was my problem, I felt more guilt for how I thought of this monster. I knew him as a funny, kind, and helpful mentor. I looked up to him and confided in him. And when people said hurtful things about him, part of me wanted to tell them that they didn't really know the real him. I felt that there was this facade I had to put on because people expected me to feel a certain way about it all, and in the end, that's the part that fucked me up the most. It was a mental battle for me. Did I hate him? Feel compassion for him? Was he actually a good guy? Was any of what I knew him to be true? And the biggest one, do I forgive him? I'm in grad school now, and doing much better. It has taken so much time though. My grades really slipped my sophomore year in college, but thankfully I was able to graduate in time. Also very lucky to have a great support system in my family. My mom and boyfriend urged me to seek out help. I still have a hard time when it comes to changing rooms or locker rooms and even public restrooms. They give me quite a bit of anxiety because I'm constantly thinking about where there could be a camera and who could be watching. It's sad to see that incidents like this happen a lot more than I had expected. You never think something like it will happen to you until it does, and if it has, just know you aren't alone. I play tennis, and yesterday was the All-Island High School girls tennis match. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I am one of the best high school girl tennis players where I live. The match was the biggest and final of the season / my high school career, so I was very nervous as it couldn't be my first loss of the season. The match was held at a public tennis court at a hotel, so anyone could come and watch. And just like any other match, there were many sports news reporters and other students there. There is only one sports news report where on the island I live on, and they usually have many photographers at the match. Fast forward, my match is over and I'm the undefeated All-Island High School Girls Champion of 2019. After the match, a man in a shirt with the logo of the sports news site approached me for an interview. I saw him take photos of all of the girls' players and also the girls in the audience during the match. This wasn't anything unusual, but he only took photos of the groups of high school girls, not of any boys or families. I didn't think twice about this until after I talked to him. All of the interviewers and photographers that represent the company have the stats of every player to bring up in their interviews, but the man who interviewed me got all of the ones he mentioned to me incorrect. He took a video of the interview on his phone and the DSLR he had with him. At the end of the interview, he asked me for my contact information, including personal cell, and said to expect a call as they were going to do another article on just me and not one that includes the match. This morning I woke up for school and went onto the sports company's website expecting to see the article about the championship match and my interview, but it wasn't there. This was uncommon as whenever they do write articles, they're always posted in the mornings. The article still wasn't there in the afternoon, so my coach called the company and asked about it. They said it doesn't exist. The man who interviewed me and took videos and pictures of me and other girls was not an employee of that company, and no one worked there with that name or description. They couldn't even explain how he got his hands on a shirt. So to the imposter photographer who has my information and photos of me and other teenage girls, let's not meet. The story happened somewhere at the second semester in high school, and I was waiting for the public bus to take to go home since I didn't want to be cramped in a school bus with the narrow passageway any longer. Neither of my family members couldn't pick me up most of the time, but there's some days that only my dad picked me up after school. A Hispanic guy comes over to me as I'm waiting for the public bus and starts a conversation with me. Also, side note that I'm also Hispanic like him. He tells me that he's a senior, is in the JROTC, and he told me his nationality, but I don't remember. I told him about myself in return, but not too much, including that I was actually 16 after he asked me about my age, or I just simply told him that. He seemed surprised, and he straight up told me that he thought that I was 13. Also note that I was a freshman back then. I would occasionally get that impression that I look physically younger despite my actual age, so I merely brushed that aside, but he seemed to be interested in me despite that I'm a minor, and I'm very sure he was either 18 or 19. I ended up exchanging my Kik username a few days later due to me assuming that he was just being nice. He was part of my then boyfriend's, now ex, friend group. He would spam me emojis all the time from that app, and that got annoying obviously. I told him off about that, but I stupidly ended up playing along with it thinking that he was still playful towards me. I remember that I looked at him while sitting in the public bus and he motioned for me to sit next to him, but I didn't. Again, I stupidly accepted the invitation thinking that he just wanted my company as a friend when he wanted more than just that. He once put his hand on my waist, held me close to him, and he called me chula. For those who aren't Hispanic or Spanish speakers, it's a Spanish slang meaning cute. Before I got off the public bus to make my way home on foot, since the bus stop is at the front of a middle school at an intersection. At this point, I should have told my then boyfriend, but I was too embarrassed, too scared, and too ashamed to even do so, which is so idiotic of me. The Hispanic senior guy even told me that he knew where I lived, but I didn't took that seriously since it was clearly impossible to tell which apartment complex number I live in. I should have at least took that seriously, but me being a dumb teenage girl yet again for the third time, I doubted him. There was this time that he wanted me to be his wife, which completely caught me off guard, and I was too stunned to reply back, but mind you, we just met and we hardly know each other enough. That's a big red flag right there. I think I remember that I said no and was uncomfortable with what he said. He said it so boldly, like assertive manner. The last straw is when he insisted me to go attend some sort of JROTC graduation ceremony rehearsal since it was the end of the school year, despite me saying no multiple times, but he wouldn't get the hint. I angrily told him off and finally blocked him on the Kik app. I never saw him again afterwards. My only regret is not telling my then boyfriend or anyone at the matter of what he was doing, but someday I'll see my ex-boyfriend in the future and tell him, but as for now, I lost contact with him and I don't know his social media or his whereabouts. Sometime after I blocked him, I unblocked him just out of curiosity to see what he sent. As soon as I did, I was bombarded with over 10 text messages of him desperately trying to reach out to me. I never replied back and blocked him again.